22.1 Textual Evaluation Assignment Details. Project 3 culminates in the submission of a textual evaluation. The genre is expository and requires the textual and contextual evaluation of 3 samples of your writing across 3 spaces as tailored for the audience associated with that space. The textual evaluation is to be written in MLA format and total 1,000 to 1,200 words. The process of constructing the textual evaluation is designed as 9 activities over 5 weeks with distinct assignments that total 270 points. Overview. In Project 1, you looked at how literacy constructed you. In Project 2, you looked at how groups construct and are constructed by the literacy practices they employ. In Project 3, you will look at how spaces construct groups and literacy practices, and specifically at how you have made moves through writing to connect space and audience with your intention. The goal of the exploration and evaluation will be to answer the following research question. What intentional shifts were made to communicate across spaces and audiences? To answer the research question, you will move through the steps of identifying 3 spaces where writing occurs, defining the audiences in each, situating yourself and your intention within each space, evaluating a sample of your writing from each space, identifying and explaining your moves for each situated sample, and perhaps even connecting the choices you made to your identity. In other words, find 3 spaces where you communicate in writing, provide a sample of your writing adapted to the audience and requirements for each space, and evaluate the samples from the point of view of your writing identity, changes and choices you've made between the 3. The tasks within each step will support the creation of the final submission. To start, we will read about language and listen to an excerpt from a piece about the high stakes of low status, which will introduce coded terms and the deeper meaning of comments while highlighting the role of writing and identity. Next, we will read an annotated popular source, Gladwell, and look at different spaces where individuals communicate and connect so that you can start to consider how the space impacts the connection and the communication. Then you will learn more about moves and codes and apply these concepts to your own writing in order to see how you already navigate and negotiate spaces where writing is used to communicate. Critical listening will also be included to introduce how listening can be deep and critical. Then listening will be expanded to consider speaking and how writing and speaking overlap and relate to teaching, learning, and language. By looking at your academic writing in conjunction with writing from other spaces, you will explore yourself within each space and identify ways you move and switch across spaces in and through writing. Ideally, you will connect your identity to your writing in order to see it as a way you use different outlets to communicate different aspects of yourself to different audiences. After you identify and evaluate 3 samples from your own writing, you will present the answer to your research questions in the textual evaluation. When you look at the threads that connect the 3 projects, you can see an evolution from individuals being constructed by literacy to the collective construction of literacy to the construction of individuality through literacy. When you are passive in these processes and in your own writing process, you don't have the agency to create and construct. But when you reorganize the role you play in creating yourself and shifting between your different selves across spaces, you take control of your identity and assume ownership of the outcomes. The integration of 3 sources is required for Project 3. All 3 texts should be taken from writing you created in a designated space intended for a designated audience. When you select text to evaluate, you can locate and look at informal writing you posted as part of a discourse community and consider concrete examples like using different vocabulary and so on. And you can identify and evaluate more sophisticated choices like rhetorical moves made in Project 1 and 2 to situate yourself within the academic discourse community. Feel free to select any other space where you overtly or subtly switch between codes and selves through text, but make sure to consider whether the text is useful for evaluation as evidence to answer the research question and whether you want to share the sample with your peers and instructor. All expectations of MLA formatting and formal academic writing are expected for the textual evaluation. And again, feel free to utilize external resources such as the USF Writing Studio and the Purdue OWL.